Hello there guys, Tom Alexander here and welcome to another episode of The Club. This is our review show where we look at pretty much whatever we want to, and this week we're looking at The Sisters Brothers by Patrick DeWitt. Now this is a book that I've been wanting to read for a while. I read the book a while back whilst trawling through Waterstones one day and was really enticed by the story, but at the time, being a poor student, I couldn't actually afford it. So the book itself is very short, which is kind of a shame. It totals in at about 280 pages, so it is a very quick read, but the book itself is a sort of road book. The entire events take place as the characters are travelling, so at times it does actually feel longer than it actually is. This may be down to the writing or perhaps the mood I was in at the time of the reading. What I did like, however, is that Patrick DeWitt, the author, has this amazing ability to make even the most insignificant characters likeable. For example, right at the very beginning of the book, there is a dentist that the brothers go and see. Now this dentist is not seen again after the chapter that he is in, but DeWitt takes time to give him a backstory and a personality. And even though you don't actually see this character again, you do actually remember him for a long time after he's gone. Also, thanks to the dentist, the main character is introduced to cleaning his teeth, as the novel is set in the 1800s, so teeth cleaning was not a priority back then. And then later on within the book, the character finds another person who's also been converted to the ways of teeth cleaning, and the pair share this almost twee intimate moment where they're standing in front of a mirror simultaneously cleaning their teeth. It reminds me somewhat of a humorous take on a classic love story, whereas in the love story it's sideway glances and secret smiles. This is just an intimate moment between two people whilst cleaning their teeth. But then this whole twee idea is kind of subverted later on in the book, as you learn that the main characters are actually guns for hire. And through the majority of the book, even though that you are told that the main characters are killers, you still kind of don't believe it. DeWitt writes in a way that makes the character seem almost simple. He is constantly looking for love. Even in somewhat unattractive women who will show him no kindness, he will still believe that there's a chance that they could love one another. But as I said, then comes this massive contrast when finally they do start killing people and the main character shows this complete uncaring that they are taking lives. At one point within the novel, the main character caves this guy's skull in with his boot, just because the man had poked him one too many times with the butt of his rifle. Through his writing, the author kind of lulls you into this false sense of security where you actually forget where this character is a gun for hire and actually kills people for a living, and you actually start feeling sorry for him. One thing about the book that I really didn't like is that about midway through, the tense seems to shift. For about the beginning 150 pages or so, it's just a normal first-person account of an event. But midway through, it shifts from this first-person account to this narrative that sounds as if it's being written down. For example, in the second half of the book, there is a lot of references to events after the event of the book. But rather than starting the book in this manner, so that you know that the entire story is being either written down or told to you, it just shifts midway through, and I found that very jarring indeed. When the character actually makes reference to the fact that he is writing this story down, it took me aback and actually brought me out of the narrative, so much so that I had to reread the page a couple times just to actually make sure that I'd read it correctly. But rather than just using it the once in the middle of the book, he then continues for the entire second half, and it just seems to me that DeWitt decided to change the idea of the book midway through writing it. So the beginning and the end are completely different from one another, both in the writing style and the voice of the main character. The way that the writing style changes is what's bad, but then the evolution of the narrator kind of makes up for it, as the character does grow along the events of the novel, finally kind of realising who he is and what he wants to do with his life. After finishing the book, I can definitely say that there's a moral to it. The moral itself is somewhat obvious, but then they kind of tell you it anyway. The moral itself is about how money just comes and goes constantly, and that the pursuit of it could be damaging. That's why I believe the book is set during the gold rush. There are all these people going out searching for monetary gain, just forsaking everything in order just to get more money, and a lot of them end up dying. And the only way that the main character can survive or actually come out unscathed is when he realises this and he decides to abandon the pursuit of money altogether and just actually settling down for a quiet life. At least that's what I gleaned from it anyway. So yeah, so I kind of like The Sisters Brothers. It wasn't what I thought it would be when I started reading it, but again, this may be the mood I was in whilst I was reading it. It's an alright book, perhaps not one of the best ones I've ever read, but saying that, I did enjoy reading it. So as always, tell me what you think, post comments, leave video responses, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And you never know, your comment and your video response may actually feature in the next show. So next week we are having a little break from books and going back to film, and we will be looking at the 1978 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, starring a very, very young Donald Sutherland. So go out, rent it, buy it, do whatever it is you do. But until then, I'll see you next Tuesday with my review of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So I'll see you then, guys.